Now for Voices of the Region. Each week we talk with an area journalist about the stories they are covering. Our guest today is Heidi Holtan from KAXE Community Radio in Grand Rapids.
Aaron Squadroni was our guest recently. He's an architect by training and an artist who's created many public works of art on the Iron Range. Aaron's art is inspired by place. He describes himself as being an explorer of the landscape of the region, and then using that inspiration for art that's public consumed. Aaron says that public art is different. It's not in a fancy museum. You don't have to pay to see it, and it's part of the place we live or we visit. Aaron has created a public art piece, a steel canoe framework with designs of turtles and loons from Leah Yellowbird. The sculpture sits near the pedestrian bridge over the Mississippi River by KAXE Studios in Grand Rapids.
To think about public art, you have to think about, again, the context. And so if you look big picture at like visually, what is a town or a city, what values is it expressing? Because if you look at most towns, the values that I see are commerce, entertainment, things that give you pleasure, buying things, money. I think what public art can do is express some of the other values that our communities have, because visually those get overlooked or overwhelmed by signs that are telling you to eat here because it has the best hamburger. If it's expressing other things like the history of the place, or something more spiritual, or something that is important to learn, or something about the community itself, then I think it's doing something that's much needed.
Our Strong Women focus groups at KAXE have come to an end, and our final gathering was at Balsam Moon Preserve in Pine River. They have a mission to share an alternative, sustainable, spiritual place of peace, sustainability, renewal, and partnership with earth, spirit, and people. We were there to talk about climate change. Laura Connolly is our facilitator for Strong Women, and she talked with me recently about how women bring community, adaptability, and a globally informed, locally enacted mindset to the climate crisis. Some of the themes that emerged from the conversation were ideas of community building and learning Indigenous ways of caring for the earth. Laura talks here about one Bemidji woman's ideas.
Just because we can do something doesn't mean we should, right? And so she had talked last time about this idea of, there's crab legs in northern Minnesota, and we should be questioning, why are they there? And should we even actually be purchasing them when they have to travel thousands of miles to get to us? Or should we be focusing on the things that are sustainable and getting our local systems in a place where we can get all of our needs met locally?
And finally, there was a Juneteenth celebration at the KAXE Amphitheater on the Mississippi River. Organizers of the event were Sarafia Gravel. She is the Community Equity and Anti-Racism Organizer for Kutaska Community Action. Also in the conversation was Nathaniel Coward. He's co-executive director for VEMA, Voices for Ethnic and Multicultural Awareness. He's currently running for City Council in Chisholm. I asked them why celebrating Juneteenth in a small town in northern Minnesota is important.
I think that it's important here because there's a community of color here that has for far too long felt invisible in Grand Rapids and the surrounding area. And so I think it's important to bring to light within this community that there are people of color here, and they're important to this community and they should be celebrated. And also just, to let those folks know also that they are important to this community and that we're here to celebrate them.
Well, I celebrated Juneteenth, all my life. So, but coming here in small rural town, it's a different meaning, seeing a lot of young Black children of color, including my own, born here, raised here, and hear the struggles that they have in just the school and the communities and the ideals that they have. So to have a celebration of freedom that can maybe, you know, get people to start talking about these issues and come together and see, you know, a lot of things like, you know, Black excellence, right? Most of the time, people think when they see people of color, they're not from here. And in fact, they've been here, they're born here,